Hello everyone, Chris here. Today I will be giving a book review for The Elements of Rhetoric, How to Write and Speak Clearly and Persuasively, a guide for students, teachers, politicians, and preachers. And this book is by Ryan N.S. Topping. And as the title suggests, this is a book on rhetoric, which is essentially the art of argumentation and persuasion, both through writing and through oral arguments, whether it be a speech, nowadays probably like a PowerPoint presentation or a TED Talk or something along those lines, but also just in a regular oral argument that you might have with your friends or peers or whatever. And rhetoric really affects everybody, even if you don't realize it. Like 100 times a day, you're in some sort of verbal banter, even if it's not like an argument, like a yelling argument. There's a lot of instances throughout life, very, very often, where you're using rhetoric without even knowing it. So knowing how to use rhetoric is a very useful skill, which is why I would recommend a book on rhetoric. Now, this isn't the first book on rhetoric I've read. I've finished this one, and then I've read Words Like Loaded Pistols, Rhetoric from Aristotle to Obama, which I'm hoping to review shortly. And then somewhat more of a logic book, but somewhat rhetoric, is a rule book for arguments, which is probably my favorite one so far. I'm going to be doing a review on that as well. And I'm currently reading Rhetorical Devices, which is more of an English-based book. And then I've also read Cicero's Rule Book for Arguments and Aristotle's book on rhetoric. So I'm going to hopefully be doing reviews of all of those soon. Now, Ryan N.S. Topping is probably my favorite book on rhetoric, unless you count the Rule Book for Arguments, which is sort of half rhetoric, half logic. But still, for overall rhetoric, I would say that this is probably my favorite. And like any of the rhetoric books, it will give you the 5 parts of speech, in addition to Aristotle's 3 distinctions between logos, ethos, and pathos. Logos being like sort of the argument, the logic behind your reasoning, your premises for your conclusions. Ethos being the character, who you are, and whether or not you're a solid person to listen to, and whether or not people should bother even listening to. As a random student YouTuber, I obviously don't have a lot of ethos. Like, why are you listening to me talk about book reviews? I don't know. But thank you for watching. And then pathos is an appeal to emotion. Like, please watch my book reviews, or I'm not going to have any views. So thank you. That would be an example of pathos. I don't really have any logos for why you should, but anyways. So he goes through all that stuff. But other things I like about this book, which I haven't really found in the other books on rhetoric I've read here, or the ones I've read and currently have elsewhere, is that he talks more. First off, it's more precise. Aristotle's super dense. Wouldn't really recommend it, to be honest. You can really get everything you need to know from Aristotle from the more modern books, which just talk about the things that you should know from Aristotle's rhetoric. So you don't really have to read that. And I'll probably mention that if I do a book review on that book. But this is the most concise. It's the most broad. There's a lot of different aspects of rhetoric. For instance, logic. There's a ton of logic books out there which don't even consider themselves rhetoric books because it's a logic book. But really, that's only one specific part of rhetoric. And same thing with, say, rhetorical devices. Gives you a lot of things like similes and analogies, and it gives you all these sort of different styles of writing that will make you more persuasive. But that's a bit of logos. It's sort of trying to be persuasive through writing. And then you'll have books on like public speaking, which is more about how to connect with your audience and etc. But this is really good. It's more about, it gives you like an overall picture without going into too much detail in anything specific. So if you want detail and stuff specific, then you should pick up a logic book, a book on these sort of rhetorical devices, a book on using emotions sort of to get your way. I'm sure there's stuff like that out there, probably maybe psychology, some sort of psychology books. But this is a good overview of what rhetoric is. And in addition to that, the author of this book, Ryan N.S. Topping, is a theologist. And while that probably shouldn't matter, most of the other books I've read on rhetoric modern books are people from an English literature base or an English journalism type of background. And that kind of shows in that they focus more on the writing aspects of rhetoric and the sort of the style aspects, where as a theologian, Topping does a good job also hitting upon the more precise logic aspects, a more oral argumentation, which you might see like a priest or pastor do at their sermon. So yeah, I think Topping does a good job of giving you everything you need to know about rhetoric. Now, that doesn't mean you read this and you're all of a sudden Cicero, or Abe Lincoln or anything. But if you're going to get into rhetoric, this was not the first book I read on rhetoric, but if I was to do it again with the knowledge I have, which doesn't really make sense, but whatever, this is the first book I would read if you're getting into rhetoric argumentation. Maybe you should know some logic first. Maybe that's my philosopher bias coming through. But for overall rhetoric, I would say the Elements of Rhetoric. And the thing is, too, this is simple. I mean, you could teach this to an elementary schooler probably or a middle schooler, and they would understand it. So whereas something like any of these three are a little more maybe at least high school level in terms of their difficulty. But that doesn't mean that this is bad. So anyways, The Elements of Rhetoric, How to Write and Speak Clearly and Persuasively by Ryan S. Topping. Great rhetoric book. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 rating. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment below and check out my other videos. And also comment if you would like to see me do a specific book or a specific genre of books, maybe a subgenre of philosophy that you would like to see me do some reviews on. Thanks for watching.